All right. So we are live. How you doing, Mason?
Hey, Jake. Hello.
Thanks for joining me on the shortest notice in the world.
I mean, look, my days off are for you, I guess. So here we are. It's fine. What's up? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I guess what happened before this video. I'm gonna turn off the Discord. Um, so first, I want to preface this with um, I think this is a really the goal of this discussion is for people to learn. The vast majority of us, including myself, obviously, are not LGS stores, which I think is really important to say when going into these discussions. So most people who are going to watch this video, most people who are going to form opinions are going to come from that perspective, right? The perspective of the collector. And it's why I wanted to bring Mason on, because I think it's so important to hear from the perspective of an LGS store and sort of what they go through around this and how they make their decisions. And my perspective is very much that LGS stores are our friends, are our partners, and are people who know, I mean, obviously there are going to be owners in your area or LG that you don't think are the nicest people. Everyone's a person, but generally speaking, like my experience with LGS stores and my hope for LGS stores is like I want LGS stores around me. I love cards. It's wonderful being able to go in there, talk to someone who's friendly and knowledgeable and engage with, and also have a place to hang out, to potentially play, to buy from locally. And I have strong connections to LGS stores in my life from when I was a kid. And as an adult, I've tried to make friends and meet a number of people, LGS stores around me. So when we have this discussion about should we pre-order from LGS, this business discussion, I just wanted to preface it with that. So what happened to me is a interesting, I think, not super common situation, but I think it's an interesting situation with a pre-order, and I think it's really worth discussing. Sort of how often does this happen? What does this sort of thing look like in Pokemon? To truly try to answer the question, should people pre-order Pokemon? When should they pre-order Pokemon? Why should they pre-order Pokemon? Why should they pre-order anything? And sort of try to have that discussion. Does that sound good, Mason?
I mean, that's a lot to cover, but sure, we can hit it all and see. You want to explain what happened to you first, I guess.
Yeah. So what happened is I pre-ordered, and I'm not even gonna give too many details at all, but I pre-ordered a box that isn't Pokemon from something fairly niche. Okay, I pre-ordered a box that's from a non-Pokemon box from an LGS store that I had pre-ordered a number of things from before, and I had always got my orders. Okay, so with this pre-order, they told me that I would get my product in about 3 months from the initial pre-order or something like that, which was fine with me. Part of doing a pre-order is this type of pre-orders, I give the money up front. There are all different types of pre-orders. Most LGSs are definitely going to have you give the money up front, but I also know people who don't do that because they're friendly with the people, they trust them, they have a relationship with them, so they don't always take that. But the majority you're gonna take the money up front. That seems ridiculous to you, Mason, to trust.
Not ridiculous, but it's definitely in the amount of situations I've had where people flake out. Being paid up front definitely does guarantee some sort of commitment. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so I was supposed to get this box in 3 months. After 3 months, I didn't hear anything about what was going on. I waited another month. It had been about 4 months, and then I called and I asked, what's going on, like, what's happening with the product, and then they told me that they hadn't gotten it yet, and that it will probably be there in the next month or two. So I said, okay, no problem, fine. 2 more months passed, maybe 3 more months or 4 more months roughly. And then I called again, something like that. Called again, had a very similar discussion, said, okay, fine, I'll wait again. Now it's been a year and 2 months, something like that, since I no, sorry. It's been a year. It was actually this month, last year, that I pre-ordered the item, and I called them and I said, you know, I don't have confidence that this product is ever going to come, and that it's not their fault that it's not coming, but I just don't have confidence that it's coming. I've never had to wait a year before, and again, this could just be my naiveness or my lack of sort of experience with these sorts of things, but I've never had to wait a whole year before for a product. And so I asked basically for my money back. And my feeling is like, from a financial perspective, I gave a no interest loan to this business for a year, right? If we break it down just from a money perspective, I gave a no interest loan for, you know, to them for a year, with the understanding that I would have gotten this product 8 months ago. Okay. Now, again, it's not on them because they're not like hoarding the product. They didn't cancel my order. You know, there are all sorts of stories, right? Of like the product going up in value. So people can't, so LGSs will cancel their pre-order so that they can charge more on the secondary market. This is definitely not that situation. This is a situation where they never got the product from the manufacturer. So they told me that they could not refund me, and that they would charge me 10% plus like a 3.5% PayPal if I wanted the refund. And
Okay,
the
okay.
interaction,
Hold on.
yeah, please.
They said they at first said no, you can't cancel it. Is
They
that what
first
I'm?
they said no, you have to find someone else to take the pre-order, which I'd never heard of before.
Yeah,
So I would have
that,
to find someone else to take the pre-order. And then they said if you do cancel, it'll be a 10% fee plus an additional 3.5%.
yeah. The first part, yeah, that's definitely crazy. That is crazy. Um, uh, I have done a 10% cancellation policy before
Yeah.
on extremely popular things, like in the heyday of Pokemon, where things were crazy and the market was going up and down every day. I threw out a price, and if you wanted to have that price, I have that product locked in, and it goes up or down, sideways, regardless, whatever, you're locked in to that, unless you cancel it and then you get 10% whacked with 10%. Yes, that is a thing. I have heard people doing that. Um, your situation is a little extreme. Like not just a little. It's extremely extreme. Extremely extreme.
So to summarize,
Super.
it's
Yeah.
sort of industry standard or common practice to charge a 10% fee. So this is good for people to know, to check. You should check your LGSs. So if
I
you're
mean, yeah.
pre-ordering, if you're
Some places
pre-ordering,
don't.
there's a
Um,
decent chance that if you cancel the order, you'll be charged something. That's normal.
I would say that it's normal for a very high demand, maybe low printed, specialty premium set kind of thing. Yes, it could be seen as a normal thing. There's
Okay.
plenty of stores out there, I'm sure, that do not do that type of thing. There may be stores that do like a percentage down and say, "Hey, I'm going to hold this for you with this amount of percentage." That's a situation too that a lot of stores do as well.
Okay.
Um, so it depends on how much risk the LGS wants to do and whether or not they'd be able to sell that product if somebody bailed on it,
Mhm.
or if they'd just be flat losing money because let's say I sold something and I only had 4 of them coming available, and I put it out there for a price for pre-order. Okay, I only have 4 coming, so that's 4 spots, and everybody takes the 4 spots.
Mhm.
If that price for that product goes down and somebody bail or 2 people bail because I'm then losing that money for people that would have stayed on the pre-order potentially because now I don't have product to sell with those 4. So I'm losing money by canceling these pre-orders because other people may not be canceling if they had the chance to buy it at that before price. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that's a situation where I do those types of 10% things because I'm losing money by you skipping out because now the price has gone down potentially.
Mhm.
So, and the same issue is if it goes up, if because some sets and even modern stuff goes up, even pre-release and after release. Um, that's my agreement of that. You're locked in. I'm not touching the price. You get it for whatever it is, whether it doubles in price, triples in price, whatever. So it goes both ways, and that's just the agreement with pre-orders, and that is the double-edged sword issue with pre-orders in general. It's a very risky situation on both ends, particularly with a situation like yours, where it's a very niche product. Where if you bought a case of it, right?
Mhm.
So that's I have to potentially sell all those products that you backed out of, because then I am now locked in potentially. I mean, who knows? Like you said, who even knows if that's going to come out anymore? Who knows? It's been 2 years basically since that has
Yeah,
been initially released, right?
yeah. I
And
did not
there could
ship
be
it.
some issues with that, and maybe some back end stuff going on that is not preventable. But this card product or this card game has also produced stuff since then. It's not like it's on a complete standstill. So yeah,
So first of all, I think that sounds completely reasonable. Is the first thing I'm going to say
yeah,
initially. So
sure,
to me, and I feel the same way about buying and selling on eBay anywhere. It's like when you enter into an agreement, there's usually some risk on both sides, and both people need to kind of follow through with their agreement. And so in this case, what's so difficult is sort of the time frame, or sort of
definitely.
like, do I just wait forever? Right? Like, is it just the sort of thing that it's like, well, if it never comes out, or this company goes out of business, or the card game goes out of business, or stops producing, where is the end date? So one question I have is how often this happens, but my situation might be super niche and very like rare. I really don't know how often this happens for people out there. But I do think the first thing that you said, like in my mind, instinctually, shouldn't there be a date though where like the LGS resumes responsibility? Like I almost feel
I mean, it's definitely
like what if you like
there are
6
certain
months or 3 months there was some
sure,
sort of like,
yes,
if
yes.
it doesn't come within this window, like we have to refund your money. Like if we don't get you the product, we have to refund you
I
this money.
mean,
Like what
that
what
should
would
be
be
the
the practice?
circumstance regardless. I mean,
Yeah.
that's that is not something that is defined, and yes, it's going to be situational and it's circumstantial on no matter what it is. Waiting a year, and this is I forgot what the date was. We're what 4 months now delayed on that, or 3 months past that?
Initially I think it was supposed to be like, my memory is that it was supposed to be like, no, like last November or something, and
Okay,
and then they changed it to March or something. You looked it up, or May or whatever. But yeah,
yes. So yeah, in that situation, I'm giving you your money back 100%. Like if you want out, like that's ridiculous to wait. I think so. Yeah. Um, but when and if this product ever does roll around, that store is going to more than likely be forced to take those boxes. So
yeah.
and
So who should the risk be on? I guess, right? Because that's the question, and that's the difficulty, right? Is
sure,
like,
yeah,
should it be should am I, if I pre-order, am I on the hook forever? Like, is that what it should be? Or if I pre-order, should I only be on the hook for 3 to 6 months? And if they can't get me the product, then I get an automatic refund. Or does it depend on the size of the LGS, and like where is this understood? So this LGS had language like, if you don't if you don't if you don't return it by due date, then you're charged by like
okay,
the product due date. So theoretically, if the product due date was 7 months ago, even though it didn't come out or
yeah,
was sent out, it didn't actually happen. Like, what do you do with those types of situations? So, like, as an LGS, you would definitely refund the money in this situation.
I would give you 100% of your money back. Yes.
Would you be irritated with me?
No, I think that's
I'm
a reasonable
curious.
stance to
Yeah.
take.
Would
That's a
you be
reasonable
like,
stance.
this
Like,
guy should hold it for another year? Like, what would be like? Would you just be really frustrated with the? I would just be really frustrated with the game company, and I mean, it would be outrageous to me
yeah,
that they were doing this, and how many? Yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Like, there's complications with that game in particular that could be causing issues. This is a year of delay is unheard of for a vast majority of TCGs. Obviously, sure we get a month pushback, maybe a couple weeks pushback. Lost Origins was pushback a week. That was early on, before even anybody should have been pre-ordering. So it's a lot of situations in your stance that it sucks. It sucks for everybody. And yeah, but yes, I would have gave you 100% your money back, regardless of whatever policy I had at that point.
So Gus and Cameron both think that it should be 100% on me. And this is part of why I wanted to have this discussion. I think this needs to be talked about more, because I think, from my perspective, as someone who isn't an LGS owner, like, I assume that that I don't think of it, just as Gus said here, they're placing an order for me. I don't think of it like that. I think of it as I'm placing an order with them and they're going to get it.
Well,
I
sure.
don't think of it as I'm dealing directly with, Pokemon. It isn't Pokemon, but let's just say it's Pokemon, directly with the Pokemon company, or the middle, the distributor. I think I'm dealing with this LGS and I have a relationship. So for me, it falls on the LGS instinctually. But this is good to have this discussion, because maybe it's not obvious.
Well, I guess their stance is that LGS would not have bought that product had you not pre-ordered it. So the store is committed to something because you paid for it, as they should be. But if you back out of it, that store is still committed to the product. And now they have to figure out a way to either get rid of it or have somebody else pick it up or whatever. And that's completely reasonable. I think that's a stance that you could take as well. And it's not a black and white here. There's a lot of nuance to it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, like, and this is how I wish these conversations went, like, we're all adults conducting business. And so I'm almost surprised that this stuff isn't more industry standard, instinctually, Mason. Like, what do you think about that? Like, why this, why this isn't more industry standard? Or maybe it is fairly industry standard and I'm just quite naive, or more naive than the average buyer, because, to be honest, I don't pre-order that much. I don't, deal with LGSs that much. I pre-order maybe 10 to 15 orders a year. I'm not doing thousands of orders.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is that, not all LGSs, I would say a vast majority of them, are not checking to see the policies of other LGSs around the country and seeing what they do. The way you learn to do these things is because you've got burned too many times. Like,
yeah,
I would not have this policy if I didn't get screwed out of taking a pre-order from somebody that flaked out on it. Like, that's why these things exist, and you learn the hard way on a lot of this stuff. There's not as great, like, game store owner's manual out there that we all subscribe to. So
yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's a sort of capitalism situation of the LGS is going to try and protect themselves as much as possible, and then the buyer needs to know these things so that they can protect themselves. Like, now that I know this, I can tell you I will be looking at pre-orders, and now that I've had this experience, I will be much more careful making pre-orders going forward. Like, sure. I'll be much more, who am I pre-ordering from, make sure I understand exactly the type of product I'm pre-ordering from. It's an interesting situation. So the benefits of pre-ordering, generally speaking, are you are locking in the price. So from a buyer's perspective, and then we'll go from the seller's perspective, because there's clearly benefits to both. So from the buyer's perspective, the benefit of the pre-order is you're making sure that maybe you think that the item is going to sell out. Maybe you think that the item is going to go up in price at release, so you want to lock in a lower price. A lot of people were pre-ordering in Pokemon over the last couple of years for just this reason. You were trying to pre-order it like your $90 to $100 box because you thought maybe it would go to 120, 130, 140 at release, and for a while there it was. What are other reasons that you find people are pre-ordering from you? Do you feel like I'm leaving any big ones out from the buyer's perspective?
No, I think a lot of people pre-order just so that they know that day one they don't have to worry about the hassle of. I mean, what do people pre-order like video games and things? It's because they can go up there day one, get their product, and walk out, not have to worry about stock on hand or oh, sorry, we ran out, or maybe they couldn't get up there the release day, so that maybe they can go a couple days later and still get the product. I mean, there's reasons like that. Especially with Pokemon, LGSs can sell it on that Monday beforehand, the actual release. So that's a bonus as well, is that you get the product early if you buy through an LGS. So that's definitely a reason why people do it with Pokemon. Um, I'm trying to think of other things like people pre-order. People pre-order like D&D books. They'll have like a special cover art for that's only for hobby stores.
Hmm.
It's not on Amazon. It's not on unless a store puts it up there, but you can only get them through like a game store. So a lot of people will pre-order those because those typically skyrocket in price after release because they're limited, obviously. So it's just situations like that was where pre-ordering really makes a difference. With Lost Origin, especially right now, like I have boxes for Lost Origin for 120 a box right now. They're like 102 on TCG Play right now. Very little incentive unless you want it early to buy it through me. But a lot of my local guys will buy it through me because they can stroll up here on Monday and know that they're going to get a box because that's my credibility and so I guess that is part of it too, is that's like you don't have to worry about getting burned potentially on release, or maybe somebody did oversell or something like that. If
Yeah.
you buy from somebody that's trusted, there's a lot more chance of you not having issues. I guess is really the number one reason.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely for me, like instinctually. So first of all, like because I'm not an LGS and because I don't have that much experience in this, I am very open to the possibility that I overreacted in this situation in terms of feeling really frustrated. Because I will tell you, and it's part of why I wanted to make this video was to because I'm sure many other people would feel exactly the way that I felt,
Sure.
which is this feeling of like I've been patient with you guys 4 times. I've never in my life bought something and waited a year for it in my entire life, anything.
Yeah.
And I went on the phone with this guy multiple times and I felt bad I know that times could be tough and I didn't want to like pull the money out. Now it's just one it was a $900 order. Yeah, like, we're not talking about, destroying the business hopefully,
I mean, $900 is a lot. That's a
with
lot.
something with something like that though, hopefully. So significant money but not insane. um and so my feeling, I guess what I was expecting was some sort of like recognition from them of that this is a frustrating situation. I think how part of how I reacted, why I reacted negatively was I didn't get any sort of like, sorry, this has been frustrating or difficult. It was just like, you can't withdraw your money. You can't get your money back, which was stunning, to hear that as a possibility. And then, or your choice, the only way you could get it out is if you took a 15%. And the language and the way it went down felt very much like he really didn't want to refund it. Now, it's an interesting situation because these boxes are actually worth 5 times the amount I'm paying for them right now.
I was looking at and you said you paid $900 for that box
No, $900
for the case. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the point just being that it's this interesting situation of like, and then I want to maybe after we do this, then we'll go to more broader Pokemon and how to sort of apply this to more people out there because that's the title of the video. But what's interesting is sort of the thinking from an LGS perspective of why. So it's not like it feels to me a little bit like they needed my cash and that this wasn't about the product, that maybe they didn't think the product was ever going to come. There were certain elements of this that it felt like, well, if they get the product and it's selling for 300 right now on eBay and it's a small release, are they really going to have a difficulty selling it at $50 a box if it's going for 300 right now? You know
Sure.
what I mean? So it's like maybe they also don't think it's ever going to come. And so my feeling is sort of like I'm just basically loaning forever $1,000.
Yeah.
That was sort of my feeling and perspective of the situation versus that it was actually ever really about the product. Um, as an LGS store owner, you guys can operate on such small margins. And so this is also an interesting thing to talk about. Like, should LGSs do pre-orders? How should LGSs handle pre-orders? How do LGSs not get into these sorts of situations? So I kind of just want to hear your overall take on that and then your thoughts on like, should LGS take pre-orders? What are the risks for you guys? That sort of thing. Why do you do what you do also?
Yeah. To me, pre-orders really do a good job at gauging
Yeah.
how popular something's going to be. So if there's people that are pre-ordering something in high quantity, and say that there's an MSRP and there's a fixed price of what it normally is. For example, there's some really good Pokemon V boxes that are coming out. They have the Dialga and Palkia in them. They have a bunch of packs. They have full art, I believe, and a regular art of super playable Pokemon. That is, it's gonna be a sellout product that people are gonna want because it's used in a lot of decks right now. It's really really good. So let's say I put that out for MSRP and open it up for pre-order, and I start selling out. Just people are just buying like threes, fours at a time, and things like that. That tells me I'm okay to raise the price if I want to, for one thing, and that maybe that the product is limited in general and it's just not widely available out there, so that I need to be more cautious or maybe even pull some back off a pre-order so that if I get burned and maybe if there's an allocation issue where I don't get as much as I thought I was, I can scale that number back and play it a little safer. All those things, it's a way of getting information that helps me better allocate and use the resource of the products to maximize my money, which is the goal of the business, right? As much as I love to support my guys that support me, uh, if I can make more money elsewhere, that's where it's got to go. So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing with pre-orders, is that it gives you a nice gauge of how popular a product is going to be.
Okay.
That's like a really helpful situation to be in. If I throw out a magic set that is for, let's say, market price, and it's sitting there and no one's pre-ordering it, that also tells me a lot of good information. This is going to be a doo-doo set. I need to try to, either lower the price or try to move it or give people incentives to pre-order it through me so that I don't get stuck with this product. Same kind of issue can go the other way too. So
Have you ever
that's
Oh, I'm sorry, Mason. Please.
no, go ahead. I'm done.
Oh, I was just gonna say, have you ever been in this situation where you pre-ordered something, where you put something on pre-order, people bought it and then it didn't come for like a very long time? Or like can you talk a little bit about what that was like for you, kind of managing that?
A year is crazy. That is too long. Like, but I've definitely had probably I'm trying to think of like something that there definitely probably has been where it's just delayed forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes with like board games or some sort of release like that. Maybe there's like a promo edition, or a day one kind of package where you get something special, something like that, or somebody ordered through me and you get some sort of incentive. Stuff like that can definitely be uh, something that people will want and will potentially be willing to wait for. But like you said, to an extent, they're not going to wait 3 months and for the game to be, let's say it's like a video game. They're not going to wait 3 months for that video game to be $35 used at GameStop to get their special edition that they paid $90 for. Like
Yeah.
that's a crazy expectation. So there have been situations like that. That it's probably like an exaggerated case, but yes, there's been situations. And in the past, I don't disclose like the 10% thing on everything or expect that, because if somebody really wanted their money back, they're just going to do a chargeback to me and get it anyways. And I have to pay a huge fee on top of that because credit card charges me like $35 for every chargeback I get. So I'm losing more money by them charging back the card as opposed to just giving them their money back. So I'm interested. They offer you like any sort of like store credit exchange as opposed to the 10% fee?
No.
Interesting.
Oh, so I didn't say this. I did get my money back completely. I got
Yeah.
100% of it back because I pushed quite hard over a couple of phone calls. And I just sort of explained the situation where, from my perspective, it felt like the product was never coming. And then if it'd be one thing if it was really going to come and I would continue to wait, but it just felt like I was continuing to wait over and over and over again. And
Sure.
And eventually they did give me the complete refund, but it felt, my anger and irritation was not over the money, because we're talking about, $130 or something like that when you talk about like the PayPal fees and the chargeback. It was like I was stunned. Like I felt like I was doing them a favor for a year, or like I was being like super kind. And then at the end of it, it was like, no, you can't, and we're going to make it difficult, and we're going to like, and unless you can find someone, it felt, so it goes to what someone said before in the chat, like this customer service piece of how customer service can go a really long way. And I think from, if any LGS stores are watching, like, I think a lot of customers, including myself, would be very open if you explain things more to us.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So if it was like if it had been explained, like why that's in place, and maybe take a little bit more time, because I really want to get along with LGS stores. I love cards, and
that is the reason why my channel exists, is to explain things like this. This is exactly,
I feel like the conversation breaks down and people can kind of like assume the worst, and it can get kind of negative fast, particularly when there's money on the line. And particularly, I mean, in this situation, like this could be a really significant, money for this place right now, given the current climate.
Yes.
So it's tough, but hopefully it's useful for people. And at the very least, I'm hoping that what comes out of this conversation is people are a little bit more aware of kind of the dynamics, so that they can make better choices for themselves, whether they're an LGS store or a buyer. This is an interesting point that's brought up that I see, by Kai, saying that, Jake, you bought PSA grading and waited over a year, so why is this any different? So in my mind, it's different for a couple reasons. And maybe it's not as different as I think, but this is where my mind goes. Okay. So one, I knew part of it's a knowledge thing. So I knew that when I sent my cards out with graded gem, I knew what the backlog was like. I knew I had some idea of the amount of cards that were being put in, and it was the PSA website. Or let's talk about graded gem here. So graded gem may have put estimated times on their website. I don't know. James, if you are here, let me know. But I would imagine those estimated times were directly from the PSA website. Okay. So the PSA was giving that information to James, similarly to how let's just say Bushy Road was giving this information to this LGS. Okay. So in that way, I think it's very similar. So they're being told it's going to be a certain amount of time, and then they're telling their customers it's going to be a certain amount of time, right? So
well, Bushy Road has to tell the distribution, that has to tell the LGSs, that has to tell the customer. So there's all kinds of chains of where communication can be left off.
Absolutely. And so what happened when people didn't get their cards back? Like, I'm sure James and a lot of people got tons of angry messages saying, I was expecting it to be this amount of time.
I'm sure they still do. They're still getting that.
It wasn't explained to me. And I think part of it is an explanation thing. And frankly, like, if I'm being really honest, like Z&G, James, and probably a lot of these companies should have come out, and probably did come out, and James may have done this, but come out and said, from my perspective, and said things like, it could take a really long time. I'm one small guy sending in 1 million cards. Like, this could take a really long time. And I'm pretty sure that every single person, including him on his channel, was saying every day, like the backlog's going to be huge. We're all rushing our cards in, right? You know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is a situation where it feels maybe quite unusual, and something that felt to me sort of like uh where is the end? So with the graded card stuff, like I know I'm eventually getting my graded cards back. I'm thinking about this live. With this, I'm like it's like it just keeps getting pushed back and back and back, and I don't know if the company's ever even going to reprint it. And so it becomes this feeling for me of just like I may never get this. I have to pull the plug eventually. Might as well pull it now rather than wait further and further and further and risk like not getting any of my money back at all if one of these companies fails or both or whatever.
Yeah.
With the PSA situation, I guess I went into it with the expectation that it was going to take years or a year plus. And I knew and guess I trusted James that he would do everything he could and that it wasn't on him. So this is a situation for me specifically with this LGS where it's like, I don't know them as well. I didn't feel like the customer service, like the explanations were good. It didn't make me feel comfortable. And they kept telling me it was only going to take a couple of months when in reality, like, did they actually know that? Or should they have told me this is unprecedented? This is extremely unusual. We have no idea when it's going to come. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you can tell me, Mason, like, at what point do I deserve to hear? Is that the answer where it's like, it's been so long that I have no idea as an LGS when it's going to come? Because he told me it's going to come in September now in our phone call. And I'm like, based on what?
Well, yeah, that's what I would be guessing or going like, how do you know this? Like, what is different from this announcement that makes this announcement more credible to you? That would be the question I would pose. If it was me, like I said, I would just eat the 3% card fee and give you your money back. I'd be like, yeah, I understand. And like you said, you could potentially even be doing me a favor by canceling because I can go sell those boxes for more now.
Yeah.
And considering what those boxes are selling for through distribution, you would probably definitely be doing them a favor by canceling if they're going for even $100 on the release. So
Yeah, that was the other part that felt weird. So Steven asked, did the LGS contact me every time? So they've never contacted me once in over a year. I'm the one who's initiated every single contact, which I also didn't love.
yeah,
I was worried I was going to call once and just there was going to be no answer and the business was just going to be gone.
and that situation has happened. You know, where businesses will shut down and be like, oh hey, I had $1,000 in pre-orders with you. What's going to go on there?
Yeah.
That's happened a lot, especially the past year or so.
So as I think about it more, I actually agree. I don't think it's that dissimilar to the PSA graded situation. I think that the differences are in the details. The differences are in my relationship with James, my knowledge of the situation, the fact that I knew what I was getting into, and the fact that I trusted I would actually get my product at the end of the day. Where in this situation, all of those things were out of place, which is interesting. So do you think if it should a website like with this type of product, because we're seeing that this type of product can be this crazy, should they give like estimated wait time for like when they're going to get this product, or how can they even know that? You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
mean, when
It's
I put up pre-orders, I always say, product may be delayed from distribution or whatever company it is. You know, there's not a time frame on that, but it's going to be subjective whether or not it's a reasonable amount of time. You know, 3 months after the third pushback, there's no reason in my mind or to see you as unreasonable for wanting your money back in that situation. Like that's silly. Like that's uh and maybe I don't know how big the LGS is. Maybe you talk to a low level employee at one point. I don't know, but you know, if somebody said and took it up with me, I would let that go. Like I said, I would eat 3% and uh, be the loser in that situation. But I think we all lost there. We all got duped.
so with Pokemon, what have you seen in terms of, has this been an issue? What is the worst experience you've had with Pokemon in terms of doing a pre-order, it not having coming and having to deal with these types of cancellations, these types of issues? What does that look like in Pokemon?
I haven't had a lot with Pokemon. There has been some things like celebration stuff. It was all over the place whether or not, I got some things early with celebrations. I got things late with celebrations. The like lunchbox tins in particular, those were super delayed. They were like 2 months delayed almost. And I did have some people, cancel their orders and they got full refunds because yeah, I mean that's a if you're seeing them out on Walmart shelves and I don't have them, like yeah, that's a frustrating situation that I can totally get. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just gonna refund you. That you're right. That I'm gonna let that one go because if you're staring at them at every other store, but LGSs don't have them, that's that's not your fault, and that's locking up money that you could be spending there at that time. If it was across the board blanket, like everything's delayed, everything's, it's kind of a different situation then. But again, how long is a willing or a reasonable time to wait? How long
Yeah.
are you willing to wait? I would say, you know, past 2 months is probably the cutoff for me. Is how long I would wait. I think that's
And would
reasonable.
you do you do the reaching out? Like, would you reach out to people and do you update people?
We did send emails with the lunchbox tins and saying that they were delayed. Um, and a lot of other businesses like Wizards of the Coast and stuff, they'll do blasts on their social medias that certain things are delayed. Like I think, the there's some Double Master stuff that was delayed, and they had to go and they sent out stuff like that. I don't normally send that information along, but I
Mhm.
also didn't have like a huge amount of pre-orders for Double Masters. But yeah, it should be on the store to give some sort of update on stuff like that. But yeah, in the past 2 years, there was a lot of stuff. Like thinking back, I'm thinking now, there's a lot of stuff that saw huge delays. Ultra premium collections were delayed. All these things were, and you know, that's not a small amount of money. $250, $300. That's not a small amount of money.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that reach out. Hey, it's been delayed. What do you want to do? If you want to cancel, it's fine. If we want to wait, we can wait. That is typically how things would go.
Yeah, and I feel bad about the situation.
I mean, yeah, like I said, it's bad
Uh,
for everybody. Yeah.
and I honestly was really expecting them to just be like, "Oh, no problem." Even the fact that they put up a fight makes me like anxious about how much the money was like needed for them, which made me feel like extra worried and extra bad.
hmm
It's this very awkward situation um, where you don't want to be the bank for an operation,
Oh yeah, I
but
mean, but also like,
uh,
how many times has that money been turned around and recycled, used for bills, and for in a year? Like that $900. Your $900 is long gone.
yeah, I mean, hopefully they made good money off the $900.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, that's the idea. That's why they take it to use it to flip and move into other things and then sell it at higher amounts. So hopefully they made good use of it.
Jeez.
What?
Uh,
You think that's unreasonable?
no,
That's exactly what happens.
it,
That's
it is
why
exactly what
that's
happens. You're correct.
exactly why we take loans from banks.
Mhm. You got anything else on this, or you want to touch on anything else? You want to do some questions?
We
Because
could do
there's
some
some questions I
questions.
think that are good.
Um,
If you guys have any questions or anything about pre-orders or anything in particular, um,
it
here's
was
one from
not my first time. Go ahead, Mason.
here's one from Rob from Red or Blue. How early do I offer pre-orders? I only offer pre-orders when I know my allocation is locked in. Uh, Distribution has a way of telling me how much product I'm going to get after the fact of me putting in numbers. So I don't put in any sort of pre-orders or make that available on my website until I know for sure. Lost Origin is a particular situation, but again, I didn't put all my Lost Origin stuff up either. So using my past experience with that, I put up a reasonable number that I think that I should be getting based on the past numbers. So, uh, but yeah, for anything sort of like big, like the big box sets I was just talking about, the Dialga Palkia ones, I'm not putting any numbers up for those until I get the little asterisk next to my number that says how much I'm getting. So and normally that's about a month beforehand.
Do you see how does this conversation, do you think, relate at all to the big box stores in your mind, Mason? Or does it feel very separate?
Well, I mean, big box stores are going to have those policies
Yeah.
in place. So, and a lot of the time, if anybody's going to be taken advantage of, I think it's the big box stores. So I'm sure that they are pretty strict on whatever their policies are, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get this, the awfulness. Like, I mean, it's so scummy when people, scummy or very unfortunate to LGSs when people pre-order stuff and then like the box price goes down on release or it's less popular than people think, and then they can get it cheaper on eBay or somewhere else, and then they cancel. That sucks. I mean, I bought 4 wilderness or 5 wilderness boxes at $150 a box.
Yeah.
And I could have canceled that order because then I saw them going for 80 and I didn't. Because I put in that order, I decided to make that purchase because, and they could have been 200, they could have been like Nightfall, at release or whatever. And that's just the risk that I took. And so I have to eat those fees. And I'm very much on board with that. And I do think that obviously, like, unfortunate things happen on both sides. And when money is involved, people can behave not the best.
Yeah. Like I said, I've seen more chargebacks just to my business in the past year than in the previous 5 years.
Yeah.
So anything to avoid that, because again, I get hit with a fee for every chargeback from these credit card companies on top of losing all that money. So I'm trying to avoid that at all costs. So yeah.
Matthew says, are you able to pre-order more now that you have 2 stores?
I personally, I adjust my numbers a little higher now just to accommodate, but Pokemon has been slowing down so much. I just haven't reduced my allocation, the numbers I put in lower just to kind of make up for that. Overall, I'm ordering less Pokemon, but probably not as low as I would be if I only had 1 store. If that makes sense.
Can you go for another 15 minutes, Mason?
I can go however long.
Okay, cool. I think I can do another 15 minutes, guys. If you guys, now would be a great chance to ask these types of questions to Mason. Any questions about, advice on these pre-orders or what's going to happen sort of with product, what's going on with product these days. If anyone has any specific questions, Mason's super knowledgeable. So why don't we spend 15 minutes just doing that? Is there anything else you want to say on the broader conversation, or do you feel like we kind of covered it? I mean, I guess I'll add that I think my situation is pretty unusual in large part because of the product. Like, it's very rare that a product is not going to come around for a year. And so it's extremely rare that an LGS is going to be put in the situation that they were in, and that I'm going to be put in the situation as the end customer that I was in.
Yes, very true. Yes.
More moderate versions of that happen fairly frequently, right?
Yes, it definitely does, especially, day and age of shipping delays and all that. Yes. Like I said, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has not been delayed as far as I know, but both Pokemon and Magic have both pushed back certain products and things because of production delays. So that's not a unusual thing nowadays, right now. But yeah, a year is insane. It's insane that a store would take pre-orders even 3 months in advance, I feel like. But that's just me. That's what I do. Other places don't do that. And I don't do that for just this reason.
It must be so difficult because some of these stores must be operating on such thin margins that any sort of error one way or another can be pretty damaging. And so it becomes a situation of, like, particularly with this niche stuff, I imagine, where if you don't pre-order it, you have no sense if anyone's going to buy it, or so you're almost like just selling to the people who pre-order it, basically, or mostly.
Yeah, I mean that's why when people see these crazy prices for these products and
Yeah,
people are like, "Oh, you can't find it anywhere." It's because nobody pre-ordered it and we didn't know people wanted it to
yeah,
put in the orders that early. And again, for a lot of these, Asian card games that take high production lead times and, contractually with different IP brands and all this stuff, that stuff takes a while to work out. They have to negotiate that when they go to do a print run. It's all figured out beforehand, and they have to have those numbers beforehand. So that's how these shorts of product can happen
hmm
because people just don't put in the pre-orders. Stores don't put in pre-orders. It's a lot of there's a lot of risk for the niche products, definitely.
Okay, so Matthew asks, how do LGSs determine pre-order price? I imagine it's varied, but would love to hear how you determine your pre-order price. So that's
Yeah,
like Astral felt like pre-orders were expensive. Lost Origin pre-order prices feel low. Is it more art than science? That's a great question, Matthew.
yeah, it's a good one, and it's definitely uh, art backed by science. Let's say that it's because we've seen the past. We could use Brilliant Stars and Astro Ratings as examples. Brilliant Stars had a very low pre-order price, and then on release, it shot up when everybody saw how amazing all the cards were. Right? You could pre-order Brilliant Stars at $90 a box from a lot of places, and then at release, it was close to the MSRP of 130, 140. So that's a situation where you would have won and did awesome if you pre-ordered. For the next set, Astro Radiance, it's was not as big of a set, but it did seem to be very high in pre-orders because we all didn't know how much was going to be out there because we had already seen Brilliant Stars where we ran out of product and didn't have product for a month after the release for that, and we are still. I was just barely able to get 6 boxes today from of Brilliant Stars for the first time, so yay me! But that's the first product I've ever been able to get since when they come out, March, which is crazy. That's
Yeah.
an insane time to wait. So yeah, there's a lot of guesswork. There's a lot of you know guesstimating. That's why I have Lost Origin at 120 because I think, uh, like you said, in Matthew, in your question, I think pre-orders is really low. That's a really low price for this to be right now.
hmm
I think it's like at $100. I feel like again, when people start seeing these cards in English, people start going to pre-release and stuff like that. The week and a half leading up to the set release, I feel like that price is probably going to go up higher. That's why I have my boxes at 120 still, and
hmm
that's I could be right or wrong. They could go down to $90 at release. I don't know, but we'll see. But yes, it's definitely uh, a lot of guesswork involved.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a complicated
Uh-huh.
decision. Lots of complicated decisions for LGSs to make.
Right, and there's my local guys that say, "Hey, I pre-ordered a box or I have a guy that pre-ordered 3 boxes at $120. If those boxes that are on my shelves for $100 at release, do I owe that customer something? That's $60. He overpaid $60. That's a big deal.
It was particularly the last couple of years have been so crazy and insane in obviously cards, but also the entire world. There's so many very interesting statistics on businesses way under ordering at one point during the pandemic and then way over ordering at another point during the pandemic, like
Yep.
Walmart having way too much supply, not Pokemon, but just everything. And way over because demand was so intense early on, and then and then with inflation and interest rates and other sorts of things are trying to push sort of down demand, down the amount that people can buy. Um, Interesting economic times, and certainly with cards, there's a whole there's all of that is affecting the card market too.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, there's a lot of good questions. We should roll through
okay.
these.
It just makes it a moving. For products that don't sell for you, do you typically open those products to sell the individual packs?
I've never done that up until like 6 months ago, when a lot of these big boxes and stuff were not moving as well, and I busted those for packs. People will buy individual packs very happily all day long for $4 a piece, but they won't pay $20 for a V box with a promo and 4 packs in it. So, you know, I'm still making money at that point because I'm paying like $12 on those boxes. So if I'm going to make $4, you know, yeah, I'm going to bust that product just to get it moving. That's and with the boom and all that, I ordered large quantities of all these boxes because who knows? This could be, still being crazy. I don't know. And you don't know what packs are going to be in them. Maybe they're going to throw another Cosmic Eclipse in a box here, or who knows? Whatever product down the road. We don't know. So you kind of order just in case for stuff like that. So, yeah, like the Morpeko boxes and the Bolton V boxes and all those. Yeah, I was busting the crap out of those because I think they had Evolving Skies in them. So, they had 2 Evolving Skies in them. Yeah, I'm busting that box and selling that Evolving Skies packs for $5 because that's what they're doing right now. So it just makes sense.
Do distributors care what price you charge once they've sold their product to you?
No, they don't care.
That's only true for the big box stores.
Yeah.
They have contracts with them, but LGSs have freedom. All right. Johnny Boy says, Mason, does risk of canceling go into your price like theft or damage?
No. Like I said, if somebody wants to cancel that, I'm gonna eat that 3% and just keep walking. There's not, and I don't like putting a buffer in place because of that. I gotta dance the line between what is it selling online and what I think I can get for it in person and kind of and do that dance. That is more of the pricing, what goes into figuring out prices as opposed to anything like this.
Okay. Ori Gem says, I heard there was another Evo Skies reprint announced. Did you get the same allocation as last time? Expecting any further reprints?
Evolving Skies has been super wonky. We're in a situation where distribution is perfectly fine, charging people more because they know the prices are inflated right now, and it is somewhat artificially keeping Evolving Skies super expensive because I just paid $125 for Evolving Skies on a booster box, and I was limited to 12 of them. I took all 12 because they're doing 160, right? So I'm making $40 a box. But the prices can't come down to being more reasonable if distribution isn't selling them at that same price as where they were previously, or at least get us a little bit closer. Giving me $40 of wiggle room where I could get burned if I buy them and they crash. They aren't paying any more from Pokemon for these products. And that's where it kind of gets hairy, where distribution isn't paying more, but they can charge more. But that's supply and demand. There's definitely more stores out there that want the product than there is to go around. And if there's going to be any more reprints, it's going to be that same way because I just bought all those 12 boxes. They're already sold and gone. I got 6 more on the way. They're going to be gone by this weekend. Like it's moving that fast where it really doesn't matter to an extent. But I would love to be making $80 a box on this stuff, but I'm not. Like it's not happening at that way.
Yeah.
And I just paid 110 because it was $650 a case, somewhere in that range for Brilliant Stars. It's like 130, 140 right now for a box. Again, I'm making $30 a box. That's where we're at right now. I would love to be saying that I'm buying all the stuff at regular price and selling it for 160 like it was last year. It's not the case. Distribution is not losing that much money, or they're not wanting to let that much money go.
Thoughts on One Piece card game? We'll do it. We'll do a few more. Try to rapid fire them as much as we can.
Yeah.
Oh
One
no,
Piece,
we got the adult bot.
yeah, they're pumping our numbers a little bit. That's fine. One Piece looks really great. I love the variant of art styles. I love that it's not like a Y Schwartz or something like that, where it has different types of art and different kinds of looks to it. Very similar to like what Final Fantasy kind of looks like. I like that there's some variety there. I like that there's alternate arts already and things like that. Bandai's doing a great job with it. I still worry very much about the organized play and any sort of support that Bandai is going to give us because they've never been good about that in the past. Still to this day, Digimon's a horrible time to try to get with organized play with Dragon Ball Supers. Again, terrible time trying to get with them and try to get product like that. Uh, I wish Bandai would be better, but maybe if they get a bunch of monies from One Piece, they can open up a American branch and actually have English speaking support for stores. That'd be awesome, but we'll see.
Yeah, I really like the One Piece game so far. I saw some being open last night. I'm hopefully going to check some out for sure.
Squeaks was busting a bunch of it last night. I was watching him open it, and
Yeah,
he pulled some good stuff.
I was in there too for a little bit. Yeah, go join Squeak's Discord, by the way, guys. If you aren't already, he does some fun stuff there.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, One Piece is going to be dumb expensive when it comes out. There's going to be product shortages of it. They've already doing Bandai things, just like they did with Digimon, where it's a big train wreck on release. There's not enough product. It's going to be delayed. Just be forewarned. It's going to be expensive. So,
are you going to allow pre-orders for Evolving Skies ETBs?
no,
Okay.
because I don't know how much I'm going to get, and that'd just be silly for me to do that. I have one distributor that already has them, but again, they want like $50 a box. I'm just going to wait and try to get it for a little bit cheaper. And until I get that number confirmed, I don't know how much I'm going to get. So it's a hard time.
What percentage of customers are younger kids?
Definitely with Pokemon, it's I would say like 25%. You know, or kids coming in with their parents or whatever. A lot of younger people in that stuff. I love kids coming in. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I always love talking to them and seeing what they think is cool. It's kind of interesting. I know what adults think are cool because that's me. Whatever I like is what adults like. Kids, they're kind of different. They don't really have the same kind of concept for a lot of stuff. So that's always what I like to learn
Mason's the adult tastemaker.
Jeez.
On distributors holding inventory for profit.
Yeah, I mean exactly what I was trying to talk about is
spicy.
It keeps his prices really high. It puts an artificial floor on a lot of products, especially in demand stuff. Of course, when nobody wants it, that floor goes away. But whenever people want the stuff, we can't go below it. So
yeah,
that's a hard situation. I understand it. It makes sense, but I would hope that they would at least, because I pre-ordered the reprint from a distribution company.
Yeah.
And they honored it at $95 a box, which is still a lot, but it's not 120 like they're doing now. They could have just been at release being like, okay, you want 18 boxes of this? Okay, it's all going to be at 120. They didn't. They did at 95, and then they're selling more at 120, which I think that's a reasonable compromise.
So this is going to be the last question for today. Apologies for a couple of questions that were after. Question for Mason: since Evolving Skies, what's your allocation like between those three products?
Yeah, I don't know what amount is being printed or what allocations are at distribution level. I'll just tell you what I've been ordering and like what I've been seeing. I order equal amounts of ETBs and booster boxes. And I did that with this time too. I don't know if I should have, but ETBs typically do get knocked down a little bit, whereas booster boxes tend to not be. Especially for if you're a Play Pokemon store, they tend to be still pretty high, but they'll reduce ETBs. So I'm okay with putting those kind of similar, knowing that I'm going to lose probably 20-25% of those just through allocation. But if I had to guess like what the numbers are, I would assume that booster boxes are definitely what they release with the most. And even if that's just because a lot of the ETBs maybe go to big box stores and they try to push those so that big box stores have product and keep booster boxes, and maybe we get less ETBs as a LGS. That makes sense to me. I don't know if that's really what happens, but if I had to guess, that's probably what they're doing with that kind of stuff. Maybe they're printed kind of similarly as amount of 1 per 1, but It just goes different places. What was the other product that he said? I'm sorry. The build and battle stadiums.
Yeah.
So the build and battle stadiums are always delayed a couple weeks, and it's because they use the leftover build and battle kits that don't get used in pre-releases to make those products, because they just have build and battle kits in them. They have 2 and then extra packs. So I'm sure whatever that dictates, maybe if there's a lot of stores holding pre-releases and they want lots of pre-order stuff, there's probably less of those products out. I think, what was the first set that did those? I don't remember. It may have been Evolving Skies. So build battles for Evolving Skies are probably going to be super limited, because that product in general is just super, super low just for everything. But like for an Astral Radiance build and battle stadium, like Fusion Strike build and battle stadiums, I have on my shelf for like super cheap, like $35, $30, because nobody wants it anyways. And there's probably a ton of them out there because a lot of that stuff didn't get opened.
Thank you so much for coming on, Mason. Apologies that it's just a short stream for those out there, but I thought it would be an interesting discussion. I do want to eventually bring you and Danny on to Danny Phantom to talk more. To plan to have like a LGS sort of discussion video type thing where people can ask like every and all questions, and we can actually hear maybe some different perspectives from the two of you guys kind of running your own stores. I think would be really great content for people. So eventually we will do that.
Yeah, I've never talked. I did a video I talk to Danny all the time.
Yeah.
But I've never sat down and actually did a video with him. I think people would be very interested to see how an online store runs versus an LGS. I think that's a huge, we have very different philosophies, and just our businesses are tailored in a totally different way. So I think that'd be a very good and interesting live for sure. And plus Danny's great and everybody loves him. So
I learned 2 things, or like maybe shifted my opinion slightly on this in 2 ways. One,
okay. Let's see.
It's actually quite similar after thinking about it more to the sort of PSA situation. And
I agree. Yeah.
And it's actually more just a situation of I understood that dynamic much better than this. I knew what to expect much better than this, and the communication was much better. So it's part of why I wanted to make this video was hopefully so Mason could help educate us, and just this conversation could help educate us a little bit more, so that people like myself don't overreact or get too frustrated. And I think this point is really interesting because this is something that didn't even occur to me as an idea. Now, Gus later on said that he thinks I should have gotten my money back because of lack of communication and the year-long thing. It sounds like pretty much most people feel that way. You feel free to comment down below if you don't feel that way. If you think they should have kept it, that's completely fine. I'd be interested to hear your reasoning.
Can you run a poll real quick as we're closing and just see what people feel?
I don't even know how to run a poll.
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is like the perfect moment to actually run a poll, but I don't even.
It'd be super fun.
Yeah. My apologies.
No, it's fine.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure how. But this idea of that they're placing an order for you, and that then they step back and take no responsibility, is an interesting idea. I'm not sure if that's how Mason thinks about this stuff and how most LGSs think about it. It's certainly not how I ever conceived of this at all. Like I viewed it as like it's the LGS's responsibility at the end of the day to get it to me, or they have some responsibility. But what exactly is their responsibility seems to be an open discussion, and people are going to have different opinions. I think to summarize, a lot of it came down to good communication and then the time length, like the length of time, that there should be some window where there should be some window where the buyer is still on the hook for sure. Whether that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it is. And then maybe there are some circumstances where it should be longer, given specific products, and maybe that could just be communicated, that type of thing. So that there's some sort of window, but that there also is there's some amount of time where there needs to be like, you just get your money back, and the LGSs kind of contact the person and say like, sorry, like this is crazy. And, we can't, good conscience, just like keep this forever. So that's my takeaways. Anything to add to that, Mason? Any like takeaways or thoughts from you?
No, I mean, I think that is a fine summary, and obviously that is a very weird situation, and definitely a sign of the times that we are in, when somebody can just delay something three times, and everybody's like, okay, yeah, I guess we're just gonna keep waiting. But then, obviously, when there's people that pre-ordered for it, that's a hard ask.
And I think putting myself into the shoes of like someone who's frustrated with me or think I was a jerk or whatever, like I get that like you're coming from a place of trying to protect LGSs because you care a lot about LGSs and card stores and card games. I get that. You know, so it's there, but there's a middle ground of where, you know, they also have to serve the collectors and the buyers from them. So
I mean,
you know.
not every LGS needs to be protected. There's, I think, and if something,
Understandably protective, particularly given the environment, because I think
yeah,
that there's a lot of now, and again, this goes to a conversation that we have a lot, right? Personal responsibility, right? So it's like there's a lot of LGSs, you know, that made some mistakes, right? That probably opened up too quick, that probably overestimated the mania, right? Should I be funding those LGSs? Personally, you know, should the collectors and other sorts of people be funding the LGSs that made mistakes? You know, and I think that there's a middle ground where I'm very much for going to your local LGS and paying more for a box. I'm very much for pre-ordering from friends and people that you support, people that you like. I'm very much for going onto Mason's website and ordering hats and the hot dog mats and supporting, you know, Mason. You know, I really you know, no joke. Like I think that stuff is phenomenal to support people from the community who are, you know, pillars of it in terms of their businesses being pillars of the community. I think that's very important. But I also think, you know, and just as I think it's important to support PSA and CGC and these companies that also get a lot of flack, but at the same time, sure, everyone can do better, and it's definitely a give and take. So
I think that's a good place to end it. Appreciate you, everybody.
All right, appreciate you as always, Mason, and thanks everyone for hanging out. Go sub to Mason's channel, sub to my channel, and we'll see you all in the future one.
Bye, guys.